Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Oscar prediction update for the month of November. Now, this is very, very exciting. On Wednesday, we are going to be getting the nominations for the Astra Awards, and I might possibly make a video reacting to those. That's sort of the real start of the award season, as far as I'm concerned. I know the Gotham Awards have already the nominations for the Gotham Awards have already come, and I thought about making a reaction video to that, but truthfully, there's not a ton of big updates there. The Gothams don't really have a serious impact in the race. They're just the first thing, so everyone treats them like they're a lot more special than they actually are. But it's kind of funny. There's not a ton of huge updates. There are a handful of little updates that I'll get to in a lot of individual categories. But just to say a few things, yes, we've had the Gothams, we've had a handful of little awards, we've had a few new trailers, we've had a few new premieres. House of Dynamite and Springsteen Deliver Me From Nowhere. When I did the last prediction video, those two movies were, I said they were slipping in my predictions, and now they're both officially dead. I mean, Springsteen, it's possible it can get a lone Best Actor nomination, but I really don't think that's likely at this stage. And House of Dynamite, as soon as that premiered on Netflix, it was just done. That movie got rejected so hard. And speaking of Netflix, in my last video, I talked a lot about Frankenstein, and I'm definitely going to talk a lot about Frankenstein in this video. Having finally seen it, I do understand what people mean now when they say it's not a horror movie. It's not really scary. They did tone down the darker elements of the source material significantly. However, in my opinion, that is to the film's detriment. This movie just feels so toothless. It feels so stripped down, so family-friendly almost. It kind of gave off the same feeling of a live-action Disney remake, to be perfectly honest with you. And that's just my opinion, of course, but I still walked away from it being like, really? People think this is getting into picture? And for a while, I was like, let's wait to see what the general population thinks. And, it's a movie about a sad, misunderstood, very attractive monster boy, so of course the internet loves this movie. At least Tumblr does. The internet loves it. Critics are still a lot more divided. Of course, neither group votes on the Oscars. That is the industry. But we really do have to wait and see until the precursors start. That's when we know what the industry feels. So, yeah, just getting that out of the way, I'm probably going to say a few things about Frankenstein that you may not agree with in this video. But let's just get to the main meat of the video. Best casting. Not a whole lot has changed. Still the same top five. I really don't know what this category is going to be. But once we get the precursors in, I'm going to be very, very curious to check which precursors have a best casting category to see if that can help us in any way. Documentary feature. Okay, big update here. The Critics' Choice Documentary Awards have happened, and they have given their top prize to The Perfect Neighbor. And for those of you who are new to awards prediction, Critics' Choice Documentary is one precursor that you really, really, really do not want to win. Of the 10 winners they have had so far, only 2 have gone on to be nominated for the Oscar. And they've both won, but the documentary branch of the Academy has this weird thing where they keep snubbing the quote-unquote frontrunner. And Perfect Neighbor has been the frontrunner for a long time now, and I could go either way with this. This movie could, I'll tell you this, if it gets nominated, it's winning. I don't see a world where it gets nominated and then loses, but it is a lot of archival footage. It is very populist, but one thing that helps it, unlike something like Will and Harper or Mr. Rogers' documentary, it's not about a celebrity, and it's not a feel-good film. Obviously not. I think this movie has just enough importance and just enough people are making a big deal about this film just in regular social circles that I think it can happen. But I honestly don't know what would win if Perfect Neighbor is not in the competition. I'm actually sort of thinking, okay, maybe this is going to be like 2021, where Perfect Neighbor is Summer of Soul, the frontrunner that we thought was going to get snubbed, but then wasn't. And I'm actually looking at Cover Up to be sort of the rescue. I think people are going to slide that one in as the potential frontrunner if Perfect Neighbor misses, but I think Cover Up is going to miss instead. Weird logic, but there you go. For Best International Feature, I have made a pretty significant change here. I've decided to put It Was Just an Accident in the number one slot. This is complicated because Sentimental Value, from when it premiered at Cannes, people were saying this is one of the top awards contenders of the year, and we all sort of had it ready to go, had it getting a lot of nominations. And then something strange has happened these past couple months where it feels like this movie is slowly being, I don't want to say forgotten, but it's sort of being pushed to the background in favor of more exciting, newer contenders. And it is a slower film. It is a drama. It's not as flashy as a lot of other movies. So I am starting to get this feeling that this movie could underperform, still get into picture, but potentially miss in some categories where we're expecting it to get in. And It Was Just an Accident is really picking up a lot of steam. It picks up a lot of steam the more festivals it goes to, and that has me feeling like that could be Neon's number one. At the same time, though, we also have Secret Agent and No Other Choice, and Secret Agent seems to be rising while No Other Choice seems to be falling. It's really hard to... I have no idea how Neon is going to balance these four movies, especially because they're all in some way, shape, or form competing for above-the-line nominations as well. And can Neon get four movies in above-the-line categories that are all non-English language? It's a lot. Neon's definitely not getting that fifth slot international feature, which I was thinking for a long time it was going to be Voice of Hein Rajah, but the more I'm thinking about it, that movie is going to be a bit of a tough sell for a lot of people because of the subject matter. And The President's Cake is Sony Pictures Classics, and it's getting a prime Christmas release. And I think I'm going to bump that one up to number 5, but it is close. Animated feature. Okay, I can already see the comments coming out from me on this one, so let me explain. I had been feeling for some time now that K-Pop Demon Hunters is not as strong a number one as a lot of people are saying, which is weird because I was one of the first people saying that this would be number one. But it's a movie that critics don't love as much as general audiences did, and there was a feeling that it was perhaps a bit overhyped and overplayed. I was thinking, okay, critics are going to be looking for something a bit more artsy, like Flo and Boy with the Hair, and that does seem to be the trend they're going with. And with Little Amelie getting those strong reviews, I remember thinking to myself, okay, if K-Pop Demon Hunters loses anywhere, I'm not predicting it to win the Oscar. And as it turns out, I don't even have to wait for that to happen because it's not eligible for the BAFTA, which is a big deal because that's one award that it's definitely not going to win. And I do think Little Amelie seems to be the closest competitor. Now, I still think it's going to be close. I still think if you still want to have K-pop at number 1, that makes a lot of sense. But I will say, spoiler alert, I do have Golden winning song still. So I think that's fair. If it wins song but loses animated feature, at least it took home something. Best sound is... Best sound is one of the categories that I really haven't touched at all since last time. I do now have Frankenstein at number 6. This is one of several categories where I have that movie just barely missing the nomination. But I think that movie and Testament of Anne Lee are both going to contend. But also Marty Supreme, because that's a film that I hear people say it's really, really good, but I don't know exactly what crafts it's going to contend until I see it. There's a lot of Best Picture contenders here, and there's usually at least one non-Best Picture movie in, but that's probably going to be F1. I don't know if anything else can really make a play for this category, unfortunately. For Best Song, I literally have changed nothing. Now that more people have seen Wicked for Good, the consensus does seem to be that Girl in the Bubble is the better of the two songs. However, I don't know if that's going to be the only nomination or if both songs are going to get in, Because Testament of Anne Lee is right there with Clothed by the Sun, and that I do have my eye on that one. But from what I understand, the lyrics of that song is taken from a hymnal, and that might cause some eligibility issues down the line. So we'll have to wait and see. Right now, I think it's just safest to have both of the Wicked songs in. Best Original Score. I have not changed the top 5 since last month. I do now have Frankenstein at number 6. The score is not bad, but Desplat has not gotten in a long time, and he looked really, really comfortable for a nomination for Pinocchio. So I don't know, maybe the music branch just doesn't love Desplat that much anymore. We'll have to wait and see. Visual effects. Okay, so there's been a pretty interesting update with this one. I talked in a previous video about why I have Tron Ares in and why I have Wicked for Good missing. For the longest time, I had Fantastic Four in, and then I finally caught up with that movie. And while it's not impossible that that could get in, I was taken aback by the amount of distractingly bad visual effects in the movie, particularly the CGI baby. And I think that is really going to hurt the movie's chances. It actually made me wonder if Thunderbolts might actually stand a better chance because the movie is a bit well reviewed, and while the visual effects aren't as plentiful as they are in Fantastic Four, you could argue that they're better. But when I looked at the field of visual effects contenders and I was trying to figure out, okay, which movie has the least amount of strikes against it, for some reason I landed on How to Train Your Dragon, which I had at like 9 or 10 for most of the year. But I do think that movie, yes, I think we're maybe underestimating it because it's not well received, because it's a shot-for-shot remake of a pre-existing movie. But if you look at it from a visual effects artist perspective, and especially if there is a bake-off, I think there's enough good work being done with the compositing and the rendering and all of the fancy visual effects terms. Corridor Crew, do an episode on this movie so I can see if visual effects artists like this. But I think it might just be able to get in a weak year. It's tough. I'm not super confident on it, but I'm going out on a bit of a limb for it for now. Best makeup. So I'm still trying to figure out what to make of this category. Smashing Machine, I've seen it now, and I think the transformation of Dwayne Johnson is impressive enough that it can get in, and the makeup designer is someone that the branch really respects. So I'm going to have that in for now, and Hamnet in the 5th place slot. It's tight. There's period makeup. There's a child that's dying. That's probably going to help it a little bit. Realistically, it's probably one of the 3 horror movies that I have just missing, but I'm not sure which one. Weapons, I think there's a case to be made for it. If Amy Madigan gets into supporting actress, she could bring the movie along with it because the most memorable makeup of the movie is all on her. But I think she would need to get nominated in order for me to feel comfortable predicting that. A lot of people have 28 Years Later in, and having seen the movie, it's good work, but I did have to ask myself, has the Academy ever nominated a zombie movie in this category? I don't think they have. I think we've seen a lot of zombie movies, and we've never had one here. I don't know if it's the sort of thing that would impress the branch. Also, there's like prosthetic genitalia in this film that people are pointing out, which I don't believe this branch would like that either. That, when they're showing the clips of the bake-off, would they have to censor it? Wolfman, at least, is a little bit more familiar territory because they've awarded werewolf movies before. But at the same time, the movie was a January release that didn't get the best reviews, so I really don't know. I feel like one of these horror movies is getting that 5th slot, but I don't know which one. Costume design, I do have Wicked still winning this. I do think it's going to be tight, but I think Tazewell can do it again in costume design. Frankenstein is right there, though. And this is a really... We could see a scenario in which all 5 of the costume design nominees are up for Best Picture, which would be rare. And I am rooting for Hedda to get a lone costume design nomination, which I think could happen. But I do think the top 5 looks really strong now, and I'm not really sure what to take out. I do have a lot more faith in Testament of An Lee than the average pundit, but I think it can definitely make it in. But Hedda, keep an eye out for that one too. Production design, I did make the decision to put Frankenstein at number 1. I still think Wicked could pull it off, or Hamnet, but I think Frankenstein is the kind of work that they've gone for in the past. So I'll slide that in for now. And the rest of the top 5 has not changed. But Avatar, it might do slightly weaker than the previous movie did, in which case it would miss this category, and An Lee would be the one I would count on getting in there. So just keep an eye out for that. For cinematography, okay, this is the one where I'm really struggling. The top 3, I could see any one of them winning, and I've decided to change my vote for Sinners for now, not just because of the oneer in the I Lied to You sequence, but also because it would be the first ever woman to win this category, which is a pretty big deal, and they may want to make history. But it's not guaranteed by any stretch of imagination. And Train Dreams and An Lee, I could see making it. Both films have really striking cinematography from what I've heard. I know everybody's going to have Frankenstein in, but to be honest, I really was not that impressed by the cinematography in that movie. And why is the camera moving in every single shot? I'm sorry, but that was a big distraction point to me throughout the film. And so I'm going to say it's just missing cinematography for now. For film editing, this one's tricky too. We don't have a ton of super showy movies. I think One Battle and Sinners, and maybe Marty Supreme, but then the last 2 slots are just Best Picture talk. I have a lot more faith in It Was Just an Accident, maybe, but everything else, like the other Best Picture contenders this year aren't super well fast. I guess maybe Avatar, but they didn't go for Avatar last time, so I don't really know what to do here. For adapted screenplay, another category where I have no idea what to do. I know One Battle and Hamnet are locks, and then the other 3, oh my gosh, I have no idea. I have faith in Train Dreams. We'll see that one pretty soon when it drops on Netflix. And Wake Up Dead Man, we're all just sort of assuming is going to get in. But honestly, the fact that this movie is not being given a serious Best Picture push like the other 2 were does make me wonder if it's lower, if it's a lower priority. So maybe it won't do as well. And then No Other Choice. Again, if that movie is going to be Neon's 4th priority this year, are they going to be able to get it an above-the-line nomination? It's tight. It's really tight. I have not seen Begonia yet. That's one that I'm wanting to catch up on as soon as I can. But I hear very mixed things about how well that movie can do. I just don't know. Oh, and Frankenstein at 9. When I watched that movie and it got to the point where Frankenstein's brother literally said the line, "You are the monster," I was like, okay, if this gets a Best Screenplay nomination, I'm going to riot. There is such a thing as subtext, Del Toro. Anyway, original screenplay, I still have Sinners at number 1, although It Was Just an Accident could potentially pull off Anatomy of a Fall. A lot of people are making that comparison, and there is a danger about comparing certain movies too closely, but it's what a lot of pundits have to do to fall back on in times like these. Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, yeah, still, I think those can do well. I think this top 5 is solid, although I will say, having recently seen Sorry Baby, that movie definitely deserves a screenplay nomination, and it would be amazing to see that movie get a little bit more traction in the race, and potentially, if it gets a Critics' Choice nomination, I'd get really, really excited. But it's going to have a bit of a tough time breaking into that top 5. And now we arrive at the acting categories, starting with supporting actor. The top 4 is still the same, but yeah, I had Jeremy Strong for Springsteen, and now I no longer feel comfortable having him in the top 10 even. So I had to go with somebody for that 5th slot, and you know what? Sure, Jacob Elordi, it makes sense. It's a very, very showy performance, and it's basically a co-lead. he's the lead of the second half of the movie, which everyone agrees is the stronger half. So yeah, I still think Delroy Lindo or Benicio del Toro or even Jonathan Bailey could contend, but I don't. Elordi makes the most sense for now. For supporting actress, though, I still have the same top five. There's a few different people that I'm making room for, like Wunmi Mosaku. When she was the only nomination that Sinners got at the Gotham Awards, that really did pique my interest, and it made me wonder, is she more of a contender than we've been thinking? Like, we've been asking ourselves, is Michael B. Jordan getting in? Is Delroy Lindo getting in? What if it's her? I'm not committing to anything just yet because it is only the Gothams, but let's keep an eye on her and see what nomination she can get the rest of the season. And yeah, I still have Paltrow in at number 5. I will say something interesting and a bit unfortunate that I've noticed is that both of the female acting categories this year have very few women over the age of 40 in the running. Like, I don't have any women getting nominated over 40 in Best Actress, and then Supporting Actress, Paltrow is the only one. And it's really, really unfortunate with what it says about the industry and women's roles, but I've seen a lot of people use this talking point as an excuse for why they think Amy Madigan can get nominated, and people, if Amy Madigan is the lone woman over 40 nominated and she's playing an evil old witch, what statement is that going to make about roles for women over 40 in the industry? Like, that, the optics of that are really, really bad. But I could actually kind of see it going, because it would be so on the nose it could happen. Best Actor, I caved. I put Wagner Moura in. You can all stop bullying me in the comments, Brazilian Army. And I still don't feel great about it, but honestly, this category is shaping up to be pretty weak. 6 through 10, just, I don't know if I necessarily see any of them getting in. Jordan, maybe, but it really is going to depend on how well Sinners does overall. And yeah, Hawk makes sense. I still have Clooney in, even though a lot of people don't. Johnson, Day-Lewis, and Jeremy Allen White, they all are giving strong performances in movies that sort of came and went without a ton of fanfare. And Edgerton is someone that I'm sort of keeping an eye out for, because if that movie does come on really, really strong when it drops on Netflix and next week, we'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see how far it can go. But Netflix is going to have to make a final decision pretty soon as to which movie is going to be their number 1 priority or the number 2 priority. We'll just have to wait and see. And right now, things are looking up for Frankenstein. So, Best Actress, I have not changed the top 5. It's tight. It's really tight. Having seen If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, I'd agree. That would be a very deserving nomination for Rose Byrne. And she's going to get a ton of critics awards, and Conan's in the movie, and he's hosting the Oscars, and he's going to help get the word out about her performance. What concerns me is, A, the movie is small, and B, the movie is upsetting and hard to watch. And it's going to be a real uphill challenge, but it's not impossible. The fact that the top 5, if Chase Infinity were not in lead, I would put Byrne in, because I really don't know if anyone else can get in. I mean, Stone, Stone could still happen, but I don't think anyone else could. Remember when Sydney Sweeney was in the conversation, and now with all that controversy, I don't think that's happening at all. But yeah, the top 5 looks pretty secure. Although if anyone does end up missing to leave room for Rose Byrne, I wouldn't be shocked if it's Renate Reinsve, because I think the way that movie has been falling and the way that it's more of an ensemble film, she doesn't command the screen in the same way that Rose Byrne does. I thought about putting her lower, but I was like, no, it's just a hunch. Let's just not do anything too crazy for now. For Best Director, okay, so at this point, it's sort of well documented that the top 6 is really, really competitive, and someone in that top 6 has to miss. And last month I had Chloe Zhao as the person who misses, and I decided now to put Joachim Trier as the person who misses, based on all of my feelings about sentimental value and its less flashy direction than some of these other contenders. Although I do think Janam Chu or even Del Toro are very much in the conversation and perhaps should not be underestimated. But yeah, I think Paul Thomas Anderson and Jafar Panahi are really the only two locks in this category. And that brings us finally to Best Picture, where I don't have as much to say as I usually would. I talked in the last video about why One Battle After Another is the clear frontrunner at this stage and why Sinners is the only movie that has a realistic shot at beating it, in my opinion. And then the rest of the top 10 has moved around a little bit, but not that much. But the real story is that 10th slot. I moved Ann Lee up to number 9 because I feel really confident about Searchlight. And then the last slot is either Avatar or Frankenstein. And I wanted to do Avatar, to be clear. But, because yeah, audiences love it, but critics don't. I know that I'm not alone in having issues with this movie. But at the same time, everyone else has basically decided that this is happening. And I could be the contrarian here, but I think being the contrarian only works in situations where no one has seen the movie. Something like After the Hunt from earlier this year was a film that I didn't think was going to get in, and a lot of other people did, and ultimately I was proven right. But when everyone has seen the movie and they still think it's getting in, then it's probably getting in, and I'm just being stubborn. I don't get it, I don't understand it, but it does appear to be happening. Don't rule out Avatar just yet, but yeah, and everything else we just don't know. I don't know how well these other movies are going to do. Train Dreams is the one I'm really, really looking out for, and that is going to be the big question with Netflix. Still, at this point, House of Dynamite is not in the conversation. So is the number one priority going to be Jay Kelly or Frankenstein or possibly Train Dreams, because that seems to be the movie that critics like the most. But Jay Kelly is going to be loved by the industry, and Frankenstein seems to be the one that audiences love. So it's a bit of a three-way tussle between those movies, and it's going to be a bit of a question mark, which one are they going to prioritize? So thank you so much for watching. I recognize that this video was shorter than they usually are, but I didn't have that much to update you on. But I do think I'm going to have a video on the Astra nominations when they come out. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you later.